Hello everyone and welcome to the Chef's Table series. We are finishing our neighborhood cooking tour of Jamaica Plain at the Loring Reno House with Ellena Haile. She is the owner of the Blue Nile, Jamaica Plain's Ethiopian restaurant. And today on the show, she and my co-host Joe Murphy will be making Misur Wet. It's a special Ethiopian red lentil dish made with lots of interesting spices. And we'll have the wine pairing, beer pairing, and some other amazing segments that you don't want to miss. So let's go over to Ellena and Joe to make this amazing dish.
Good evening, my name is Ellena. I'm the owner of the Blue Nile restaurant right here in Jamaica Plain. And today I'm going to prepare what we call misur. Misur is a lentil dish. And we picked this particular dish because this is the one we sell the most. Especially for vegetarians, this is sort of like their meat equivalent of a vegetarian dish. Ethiopian food is nothing, no additive, no chemicals. Most of the time when we're growing up, right from the earth to the table. So since we can't do that, the closest thing we can do is keep everything as fresh as possible. We have our base red lentils, split red lentils. Usually we have a ginger and garlic. We do fresh ginger and garlic, just mash them together. A little bit of oil. And this is a red pepper. It's actually a cayenne pepper. Has lots of ingredients, onions, cardamom, a lot of different spices all blended together.
And do you blend that yourself?
I could do that, but it could be done.
Okay.
All you have to do is just get the red pepper, take the seed out, and just dry it.
Right.
And add the cardamom,
Right.
red onions, and ginger and garlic.
Okay.
All of this, about 9 different spices, and just blend them to, until you get it to the sort of a powder consistency.
So they can, if somebody wanted to duplicate this, could they go to the supermarket and find a blended cayenne pepper with, other herbs?
Yes, it's getting, a lot of the Ethiopian foods are getting a recognition. I guess in general, ethnic food is getting a lot of recognition. Mm-hmm. Now more of Ethiopian food because vegetarian found it to be really a good substitute. And I myself was a vegetarian about 15, 20 years ago. And I wasn't able to stay on it because I wasn't getting enough to eat. There wasn't enough meat in the diet. I wasn't getting enough iron until the doctor said, no, you just can't do this anymore. So now I can be vegetarian. I can, anyone can be vegetarian because there's just plenty of, food available. And Ethiopian food is an excellent substitute. You eat this lentil dish and you're just as full as you ate beef or anything else. You don't need anything else. Just add vegetables. It's a complete meal. So I think for that reason, it has been very, very popular.
Yeah.
The first thing you do is just chop the onion. Really, if you're doing it for home, it doesn't have to be, perfect. If you don't like to chop onion, just, you have this little blender. We can just drop the onion or just puree it. Just put the onion.
All right. Now, when you use oil, what do you use? A canola oil, salad oil, cooking oil?
I tend to use corn oil. I found it cooks better for me for a particular dish. But, canola oil can be used as well.
Right.
So.
Well, corn oil, you can get a nice flavor with that. And I'll use corn oil periodically. And I've actually, a friend of mine, and he's one of the segment chefs of the show, so he's on weekly. His name is Steve LeCount, and he blends canola with corn oil, and he uses it for different things. For instance, if he's sautéing mushrooms, and it just gives you a little bit more flavor. And the heat, you can't really overheat it so that you're getting a major smoke factor. For instance, like an olive oil, very low heat tolerance. I like to cook with olive oil, and a lot of chefs do, so I'm used to working with it. But, in this situation, you're using a corn oil, so that's great.
It cooks, corn oil is good for actually cooking. Olive oil is great for a salad.
Yeah.
We do at the restaurant a lentil salad. We call it azifa. We use some olive oil on that. but anything you cook, usually it doesn't seem to do well.
Right.
And canola oil is being suggested, but canola oil is very, very light.
Yeah.
So it makes, because this is something it has to cook for a long time, I think the corn oil seems to hold much better.
Yeah, and you know, while you were talking about canola oil, to me, it's flavor neutral, so it doesn't really have any flavor like the olive oil might, or the corn oil. So it's always a great option. You're sweating these onions.
I'm sweating this onion till it's sort of translucent.
Right. So if everybody understands translucent, it basically means if that was held up to a light, you can see the light come through it. And I noticed you put the lid on this.
Yes.
So did you put the lid on to help sweat that?
Sweat that, and also cooks a little bit faster.
Faster, right. Yeah, because you're going to trap that heat. So you're going to get almost even a steaming, because the onion does have a lot of water. It has a lot of sugar. So you just want it translucent. You're not trying to caramelize. Is that correct?
No, just translucent.
Okay, fine.
We try not to overcook, because the onion after a while it sort of disappears.
Right, say translucent.
Maybe just a little bit more. I'm just going to add a little bit more water.
Yeah.
So it'll cook a little bit softer. It'll be a little bit more softer.
Okay.
Just a little bit of water.
You know, I'm always talking to people when we're doing the show. A lot of people are afraid to cook with a hot pan. In a commercial kitchen, those pans are smoking hot. So do not be afraid of that, because in a lot of techniques you want some caramelization, you want a quick sear in the meat to trap the juices in it. And so keep that in mind, that it's okay to have a really hot pan.
So I think now I'm just going to add a little bit of oil. That will help the onion cook a little bit faster.
Oh, so you just sweated the onion without the oil?
Without the oil, just with a little bit of water.
Okay.
Just add a little bit of oil. And you can really pretty much make this as you like. If you don't like, the oil, you can always reduce the oil. There is no, you can experiment. It doesn't have to be like a certain portion. So.
Yeah, and it's something I always talk about. You know, cooking is a creative process.
So now we have the onion and the oil.
Right.
It's okay. So we'll let it cool a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, Chef just gave you another tip.
Just a little bit.
Do not be afraid to take that pan off the burner. If you think it's gonna burn or just cooking a little bit too fast, just pick it up and move it over, let it come to temperature, give you a chance to turn down your flame or whatever type of cooking tool you're using.
What we do next is we're going to add the red pepper. Again, this is like seasoned peppers, cayenne pepper. And just, again, it depends on your tolerance. If you can tolerate spicy, you can add more. And if you don't, you can put just a little bit for a flavor. What Ethiopian cooking is all about is just this layered cooking. Like as you've seen, first we do the onions and we wait a little bit, we add the oil, and now we add the pepper. And again, the pepper has about 9 different spices in it, so it's already, this usually should be enough, but we go on to add other things as well.
Yeah, if I can just talk about the heat, I'm the type of person, if it's too hot, you would think I just walked out of the shower. It just affects me. But to me, if you're not used to hot, I'm trying to build up a little tolerance. Let me ask you this, Chef. At the restaurant, if I came in and said I want to try this dish, and I'm guessing it's already cooked, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so there's no way to reduce the heat.
No, because this is something that takes a very long time. Obviously, we're making a small quantity, but when we cook it, again, it's layered. We do the onion. We have to wait until it cooks into the right consistency. Then we add, again, the oil, let the onion and the oil mix together. Then now I added the pepper. Just let, again, the onion and the oil, everything else just blended together. And we wait for a while. We let it simmer, we let it cook, let all those 3 tests blend together. And then we add the ginger and garlic. And again, we have to let it cook for a while. And then finally we add the lentils, and then we really stir it up and let it cook for a while. Really kind of blend all those ingredients. So it's kind of a layered cooking.
Right,
And
yeah.
it takes time. You have to cook
Right.
each spices and kind of mix it with the previous one and just keep adding.
You know, and this is something, and I'm glad Chef just gave you another tip, and something we talk about on every show. When you're cooking, keep in mind, you are layering flavor upon flavor, so that that end dish is going to be like the best concert you've ever experienced. You know, all those instruments come together and bang. Then you say, gee, I wish I could cook like Ellena, Chef Ellena.
Okay, well,
And, but again, these are techniques that chefs spend years developing. And don't be afraid to experiment. If it's your first time cooking this dish and it wasn't quite what you expected, don't worry about it. Invite your boyfriend, let him eat it, and then make the dish the way it's supposed to be made for yourself.
but the key is to keep on trying, you know, the more you try, the more you know the flavor, the temperature, the heat, and just the flavor. It's just a matter of just practicing. Once the practice makes perfect.
Exactly.
Okay. We're going to put a little bit of water now.
Okay.
So all the first 3 or 4 ingredients just blending together.
Yeah.
So this is pretty much is what the sauce looks like.
And with that cayenne pepper, you know, the last couple of weeks I've been talking about smell-o-vision, but all these, the cayenne, the blended cayenne, and you know, these in the onion and these flavors are all starting to permeate the room.
So we're speeding a little this up, but normally it really does take a while to cook. Right?
Well, that's just. I'd like to talk to you about other elements of the cuisine from Ethiopia. Meat, is that?
Meat is also is just as dorowet. Dorowet is what we call the chicken dish. That is a signature dish. That is the main thing. So when we were young, you know, when you're a young girl, and the only way you can be married is if you know how to take the chicken apart into 14 pieces, and you can't just chop it. It has to be cut in a certain way. If it's not, then you know you're really not ready for marriage. The olden days. So it's chicken. The chicken is a signature.
That's probably why my
dish.
marriages never worked out. I never knew that I had to cut that chicken into 14 pieces. I'm coming to work for you.
And you don't cut them up. You have to sort of you have to take
Break
them
them?
apart, break them. There are certain places where you
Okay.
have to do just that right.
Sounds
So
good.
the chicken and also meat dishes. So I think we picked the vegetarian because that seems one who's really taking off right now. Seems vegetarian. People were more interested in vegetarian diet
Healthy
for health
eating,
reason,
yeah.
healthy eating, and also.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of ethnic food, by default, they don't have a lot of the preservatives, they don't have a lot of the sugars. So if you see this one here, there's basically, it's just pretty much, it's very plain, very simple cooking. Nothing else goes in
very
here that you
flavorful.
can't pronounce. So
Yeah.
you have your, you know, your lentils, the oil is the oil, and this is all natural stuff. Nothing, you know, this is ginger and garlic, so nothing else, you know.
I want to just mention the ginger and garlic.
Yeah.
That type of a blend is very common in Asian cooking. They will blend their garlic and ginger, and I've got to tell you, I've done some of the things I've learned from different chefs we've had on, but wow, it really makes a dish when you blend those two things together.
I started telling you the story like when we were kids, and when we were about around 12 or 13 years old, you know, our mothers usually sit down, they get all these little ingredients, and they'll sit in one place and they'll tell us what to do. They don't do it for us. We're the ones who actually have to do it. I left home before 13, so I never learned how to do this. So years later, I was married, I was with my daughter, and we were making, I think, a chocolate chip cookies.
Oh.
And my mother was sitting there, and I said, oh, you know, we never did our cooking, you know, you never taught me how to cook. And she said, what's the problem? I'll teach you, you know, get the stuff ready. So I took out the pot, the onion, everything else except the ginger and the garlic.
Yeah.
And she said, I don't have the ginger and garlic, let's make it with the rest. And she said, you do not put your pot on the fire if you don't have your ginger and garlic. So if you're going to do Ethiopian cooking, make sure you have the ginger and garlic, you know, together. And you can, you know, you can peel this, and or you know, I think you find the garlic nowadays all peeled. And the ginger also appeal too. So just put them in a blender and put a little bit of oil. You can put olive oil, and you can put it in the freezer. So when you need to put it on something, just take a little bit and just add it to whatever you eat.
And that's a great tip.
It's,
So
yeah,
when you
garlic is.
when you blend your ginger and garlic, that means you can freeze that.
You can freeze that. My mother, when she leaves, she always put it in the big jars, and we leave it in the freezer. So I take one out and put it in the refrigerator, and I use it to cook. Not just Ethiopian food, anything that I cook. I always put ginger and garlic. I mean, it's really wonderful. It's good for you. It's very healthy. Garlic is garlic. I'm sure everybody knows. I don't need to tell that.
Yeah.
Ginger is just a wonderful spice, healthy, natural.
And ginger is common in Ethiopia.
It's very common. They grow, in the backyard.
Yeah.
And
Well,
as is a garlic, really.
Yeah, one thing I would say about freezing the ginger and garlic.
Ginger and garlic goes inside.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, you really slammed that in there.
Yeah. So just freeze it. It could go in the freezer and take it out when you're ready to use it and leave it in the refrigerator.
Right.
And just a little bit on everything, and that's a perfect way
Just
to
a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you used quite a little bit there, I thought.
I do put too much ginger and garlic,
Yeah.
so
That's fine.
But now what we're going to add is we're going to add a little bit of water,
Yeah.
and you'll be amazed. The thing I like about lentil is you can take a little bit of lentils, cook it, and you'll be like you will get enough to feed a lot.
Right.
So
right.
This is going to really fill up the whole
Excellent.
pot. So that's why if you put the ginger,
right.
Eventually when it blends in with the things,
Right.
it's not going to be too much.
I can break a chicken now into how many pieces? 14?
12 pieces or 14 pieces? Huh? 12 pieces.
12
Yeah.
pieces. So,
See, the men knows
I
now.
can do that.
So I think we count the skin on that, right? The skin is one. Start with the skin.
Yeah.
And then you have the legs.
Yeah.
And then you have to take the legs, and
Right.
there's
Right.
little joint. There's certain
Yeah.
joints where you have to really
Yes.
cut them. So
Yeah.
it should be exactly 12. If you did, you pass the test. You're ready to be
Great.
married.
Great.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit. So
Okay.
now I have the water. I should put a little bit more water.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love lentils. Lentils are very common in Italian, Mediterranean
Just cover
cooking,
this up.
Near East cooking. So it's a wonderful dish.
And it's becoming more and more. I see it in this country in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm amazed how much people have changed. 20 years ago, I had a restaurant down on South Huntington Avenue,
Yeah.
and very few people ate spicy food. Now everybody, not even everybody, the little kids are eating spicy food. So I'm really amazed, and
Yeah.
kids are younger,
Yeah.
eating younger and younger,
Right.
and they're being exposed to more, diverse food, which is
Right.
really, it can't hurt.
Yeah.
It can only enrich our lives.
Chef,
so.
as you're talking, I'm looking at you,
Yeah.
and you look so rested. How do you maintain? I mean, you're open 7 days a week, right?
7 days a week we're open.
Wow.
And also now we're getting our stuff in Whole Food and a few other stores. So
that's
that is
terrific.
really keeping us very busy as well.
Right,
So,
yeah, so you're doing a packaged
doing a
retail,
package,
ready
yes.
to eat, what they call
Yes.
RTE, ready to
ready
eat
to
package.
eat. You find them in the salad bar, and
Wow.
I think a couple of them, you
Good
find
for
them in
you.
the freezer section.
Well,
so
as I said at the beginning of the show, when we mentioned that Blue Nile was going to be on, people go, oh my God, oh, it's wonderful. And I've got to tell you, we did the interview at your restaurant, and it's really lovely inside. And I love the black and white pictures of different kings and whatever. And I asked your brother Joseph, who's there all the time, I said, is that Haile? And it was. And how I even put that together is beyond me, Ethiopia, because I didn't remember Haile and Ethiopia being together. But that was a huge name when Kennedy was around.
Oh yes, he did. Haile Selassie, he was the first African king to come and visit Kennedy at the White House.
Wow.
In fact, the stories that he gave Jackie Kennedy, it was an Ethiopian, sort of like a cape.
Yeah.
And she said she just squealed with joy. She was so happy to have it.
good.
So, and he was, Ethiopia is a very old country.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the cuisine just developed from, BC, goes back to the time of Christ.
Wow.
If you look at in the Bible, in the Old Testament, there's a mention of Ethiopia about 9 different times.
Oh, wow.
And it has a very long history. And
Yeah.
I think back then they used to trade with India and with
Right.
in the Middle East. So a lot of the ginger, the garlic, you see a lot of in common with Indian food. So a lot of that has originated
Well,
from
we're
the
really
old country.
happy that
So-
you and your brother Joseph, they let you come to America to help us
Well,
with this great cooking.
it is a great country, and a wonderful thing about it is people are open. They're willing to try.
Yeah.
If you go to other countries, I've traveled quite a bit. I think my brother lives in Switzerland.
Oh,
And they had a Chinese restaurant, and the people who run the Chinese restaurant is a Swiss, and the Chinese food tastes terrible. They're terrible. So I'm glad, here, if you're Ethiopian, you can run Ethiopian restaurant.
Right.
And you can taste the food as it is, as it was
Right.
made back home.
So chicken is a signature dish.
a signature dish, and the meat.
Yeah.
And then on the, I guess you can say the chicken dish, and then the meat, we have what's called kitfo. And kitfo is, like I said, lean meat. It's just grounded up.
It's meat?
Lean meat, yes, very lean red meat. It's
Okay.
grounded up, and it's mixed in with herbed butter. Again, that butter goes through a lot of seasoning. You put a lot of season, you just let it sit and simmer for a very long time.
Okay.
So the butter itself has a really rich, very flavorful taste.
Now, do you clarify your butters or just
Yes,
put
we
it?
do.
You do.
Clarified, yes.
Okay, so, yeah, we're talking about clarified butter. Basically, you melt it, and then that white foam of the fats, you just take a spoon and take it right off the top.
So here, if you look at it, it's just pretty much watery now.
Wow,
But
yeah.
what we're going to do now is we're going to add the lentil.
Yeah.
When we add the lentil, it's going to become thick. So we're going to allow it to mix and cook for a little bit, and then we're going to add water. So by the time we finish, we should have a full pot. This little thing should be fill up pretty much, this pot right
Yeah,
here.
because those lentils will double in size.
They double in sizes. So, once you're done, if you just, one person, you can always put it in the freezer and take it out another time. And the best thing is you can eat it hot in the summertime, in the wintertime, and you can eat it cold. Just take it out of the fridge, and you
Yeah.
can eat it with a pita bread. We eat it what's called injera. The restaurant people who had gluten allergy, they eat it with rice, with quinoa. I've seen people do all kinds of things with it. So
Right.
I
This
did
is great.
a food show out in Cambridge, and I ran out of the injera, so I just left all the sauce in there. And it was just amazing what people were doing with it. They
Yeah.
were putting on a burger, they were putting it on salad, they were putting it on everything, a hot
Really?
dog, and I was like,
Yeah.
I would have never done that. But
Yeah.
it's interesting to see what people do with it. So, if you make it, you might find some, interesting way of using
Right.
it. So already, if you can see, it's getting a little bit thick. And as the lentil cooks, it's going to be even more thicker. Okay. So very simple, not
Yeah.
too many steps. The only thing is it just takes a little patience, a little time.
Right.
And the good thing is once you make it, you can put it in the fridge, and you can eat it whenever you want.
Right.
You can use it as a dip if you have a guest in your house.
That's a great idea.
At Pemberton Farm.
Would you puree that and make it like a hummus type dish?
It doesn't quite get like hummus.
Yeah.
You'll still have a little bit of the lentil, but
Yeah.
it still is just it's creamy enough to pick it with a
Right.
taco, with with pita
Yeah,
bread.
and there's enough spice heat in
enough-
there
enough
so
spice,
that
yeah.
it would be a great appetizer.
Yeah.
Well, geez, that's great. Now, is lamb part of your cuisine?
Lamb is part of the cuisine. Almost everything. I think we picked the vegetarian because the vegetarian seems to be really what's taking off more than anything else. We end
Right.
up, we sell more vegetarian food than anything else.
Yeah.
And also, I think our religion, which is the Orthodox Christian, we fast some 200 days out of 365 days.
Wow.
That's a lot of days.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that means we're on a vegan diet. And when you're on a vegan diet that many days, you really have to have, enough food.
Yeah.
So if you come to the restaurant, you'll find quite a few vegetarian entrees that you can eat.
Yeah.
And really don't feel like you're deprived, you're
Right.
hungry. And again, my problem 20 years ago, I would eat, and after a while, I'm like, I'm starving again.
Yeah.
And my kids, when they were younger, I will cook, and these are growing boys that play basketball, and they come in, and we'll give them dinner. 10 minutes later, they're standing there holding the refrigerator door as if something's going to jump out. You know?
Right,
So,
yeah.
and then my mother said to me, they're hungry. They need more food.
They need more
So
food.
until one day, I made the lentil dish here, made it a little bit mild. I made salad, and I put the salad and put a lot of the lentil dish and put it in a pita, and I gave it to them. Ever since then, when they get really hungry, they said, Mom, can we have real food? That's what they call it, real food.
Real
And it
food.
is real food because there's nothing else in it. you
Yeah.
know.
Well,
So-
that's great.
Yeah.
If, for instance, I came and I wanted to try a lamb dish, do you put a lot of heat in that?
The lamb dish, all the foods that we prepare on the spot, that we can adjust.
You can adjust.
We can
That
adjust.
was my question.
Again, the other, things, it would take a very long time, so it has to be pre-cooked.
Right.
So we
Okay.
have the mild version of the meat dish. We
Yeah.
have the spicy version. So if you have no tolerance, you can always have the mild chicken.
Right.
We don't have the mild chicken
Right.
yet, but we're working on it. We can add. We have a very small kitchen. We have a very small restaurant. The reason we did that was because, we started out very, very big on the new building.
Oh,
And then I just decided that's not what I wanted to do. What we want to do is to get this food out to as many people as possible. And the best way to do it is just to put it out in the stores.
right.
But we started this little place, let people taste it, let people try it, and just give us a feedback.
Yeah.
So the response has been really, really overwhelming.
Yeah,
It really has been
I really
really
think,
good. Yeah.
with the infusion of many different cuisines, it's just great. And, a lot of times growing up in an Irish American home, it was just meat and potatoes. And, hey, it sustained a culture for hundreds of years, but, I talk to different people that are actually from Ireland, and they love Indian food. They just love those different spices. So this is really great. And what we're trying to do with the show also is show a lot of diversity in cuisine and culture. So it's really going great. Now, was there anything else you're going to do besides?
I think, again, the only thing that's left was the salt. Just put a
Okay.
little bit of salt.
Salt.
Again, try it a little bit first, and then if because the spice is enough. I think there was a lady who came and said to me, your food have enough spice, you don't need any salt.
Which is
So,
true,
which
yeah.
is true,
Yeah.
so.
On a lot of different spices, salts, peppers, in my opinion, it's always good to incorporate as you're cooking. Let the flavors come together, and then as you get close to the end of that dish, taste it. If it needs more salt, more pepper, an herb or whatever, then you can add it. And a lot of professional chefs, when the dish is complete, if it doesn't have enough salt, they might put a little bit of kosher salt on the top of the dish. And, I vowed not to keep talking about kosher salt or sea salt, but that's what you find in professional kitchens. Because the crystal is larger than your table salt, it's much easier to control that extra little pinch you want. And I really like the flavor, and I think that flavor profile is much nicer than the table salt. And I see a very good chef over there going like this in our audience, and she is a wonderful chef, believe me.
So here we go now. See, you can see that all that water's just disappeared.
Wow,
So getting
that is-
thicker. And as the lentil cooks and it becomes even more thicker, then we'll add more water.
Right.
And then we just turn down the heat and let it cook. And then right before we take it out, we turn down the heat. And we put a little bit of cardamom powder and just, cover the lid and let it simmer maybe for 15, 20 minutes. And that's it. You have it ready.
Right. I have a question for you. Lentil, if you took a lentil and said, oh, I'm going to taste this, it might break a tooth, okay? But as it cooks, now there are different levels of tenderness.
Yes.
What do you look for as far as what I call the bite, which means how it feels in your mouth?
It shouldn't be crunchy. Should be really soft.
Yeah.
At the restaurant, we cook it so it's not very, very soft because, once we cook and then we keep it a couple of days in the refrigerator.
Yeah.
And the longer it stays, the better it tastes because it gives the spices just to blend them together. So, so a little soft. So when you take it out, if you reheat it,
Right.
then that way, you know, it doesn't fall apart completely.
Right.
So
You do,
not
so you
crunchy,
do want
but a
some
little bit
texture.
soft, a little texture.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, if you're not used to lentils, well, that outer shell, you're always going to get a little bit of that, you know, texture in your mouth. It's fine, but you're going to get a little bit on what I, again, call the bite. And it really adds to the dish, I think, because you're getting different layers of texture as you eat these lentils. So, anyways.
So what we're going to do next is we're going to fill this with water and let it
Excellent.
boil.
Yeah.
And again, you know, just add a little bit of cardamom, cover the lid,
Right.
and turn down the heat and let
Yeah.
it simmer.
You just let it simmer.
simmer, yeah.
And you know, with this type of cooking in a saucepan, when you put that lid on, it's retaining the steam, if you will, so that water is returning back. So you're not going to get, I'm not going to say it wouldn't burn and stick in the bottom, but every 5-10 minutes, if you have to do this for a long time, take a spoon or a good spatula and just give it a stir and get it off the bottom. So this promotes moisture by putting that lid on. Okay, chef.
So I think that will pretty much is the cooking. So
That is great, and we're
it is, as I said, it's a very simple. You have the onions, you have the, you know, a little bit of oil, a little bit of the red pepper,
Yeah.
and that's basically it. And food shouldn't be too complicated. It shouldn't be
yeah.
tortured. I think we should start eating food as they are, the way our ancestors
Yeah,
ate.
simple, fresh ingredients, and it makes wonderful meals.
So here is what would look like before we add water. So once it gets to this consistency, you can pretty much fill it up with water. And don't have any water.
So would you
So
double
just
the volume with water?
You will double the volume with water, and then
Okay.
you just add a little bit of cardamom powder,
Okay.
and just cover it up and let it simmer.
Excellent.
Yeah. And I, you know, if you do like Ethiopian cooking, if you decide to try it out, I would urge you to invest on a good thick pot, because you do have to cook for a long period of time. You want it to be thick enough so it doesn't stick to the bottom.
Right.
So.
Great. Well, I want to thank Chef Ellena from the Blue Nile Restaurant in Jamaica Plain for teaching us how to make this beautiful lentil dish. And on behalf of the Chef's Table Foundation, if you would like to try this recipe, you can find it on the Chef's Table Series.tv website. And also the video is on there so that you can watch and have the recipe and cook along with Chef Ellena. Thank you.
Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's beer pairing. Today I'm here with Rob Costa of the Massachusetts Beverage Alliance, and we are here to pair Blue Nile's Ethiopian dishes. So I'm thinking this must have been a hard one to find.
A little difficult.
Beer.
Yeah, I've had some Ethiopian food. I usually haven't had it with beer, usually with like a lighter wine.
Correct, yeah.
So I sort of thought, for this one, why not do something a little bit different? Definitely something light that I find has, I could call them malt spices and grain spices.
To complement the
To complement the
spices?
spices, yeah.
So you've chose this like because it's light in that it won't overpower the spices, or would
No.
it bring it out?
I think that, well, a bit of both.
Both?
Because the body is very light.
Yeah.
The carbonation is pretty tight. It's pretty, bubbly. It's a bit spritzy. I know I use that once in a while, or all the time. But it's using pale malt, German Pilsner malt,
Oh, you'll have to
rye,
explain that to me.
rye, oats, spelt, and wheat. So it's kind of a hodgepodge of malts. And it's because it's actually pretty traditional. This is, Foolproof's La Ferme Urbaine. It's a Saison, which is typically a southern Belgian, northern French beer. Saison meaning season. Oh. So it's a farm. It's
Even
a
the name
farmhouse
has
beer.
so much going on.
Yeah,
with it.
it's a lot going on
As
in
well
this
as the beer.
But easily one of my favorites. Probably my favorite beer actually from Foolproof, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, does very, very well.
Let's try it.
Yeah.
So what's spelt?
Spelt.
What's that?
Spelt's just another fermentable grain. And the reason that it's used in this particular beer is because, like I said, it's traditional. This is what the farmhands used to drink. And you would just malt and try to ferment anything that was at hand. That's why we have sort of that hodgepodge of different malts that are used.
And you mentioned German Pilsner.
German Pilsner malt.
Well, how do you know it's German?
Well, it's from,
as opposed to American?
It's
or?
from Germany. I mean, but
Okay.
it's going to be malted there as well. Malting process, what they do is it's kilned. It's actually barley or
Okay.
really anything that's fermentable. But they actually kiln it at a certain temp. That what happens in the malting process, I probably should get into that. What you do is after harvesting grain,
Okay.
and I'll just use say barley. What you do is you actually take it, you lay it out, the maltster lays it out on sort of like a plank floor. Then they take water and they kind of trick the barley into false germination. So what happens is it starts to sprout a little bit. And then right when that happens, they increase the heat and then it sort of lets it die.
How do they increase
Kills it
the
off.
heat?
From underneath. From just some of them, I mean, I've seen like the very traditional back in the day, maltsters used to actually have like fires underneath, and then you get a little bit of smoke note.
Wow, a lot
from
of
brewers.
work to make a beer.
Yeah, and that's just the maltsters. that's a whole different industry that I don't think a lot of people give enough respect to the maltsters, because really to do something with the same outcome over and over is very difficult.
Wow.
So then after they trick the barley, false germinates, then they kiln it, so it brings up the temperature and stops it from, fully growing out of its husk. From there, what they do is they actually kiln it to certain temperatures, which means that you're going to get certain things out of the beer. This is going to be a very light beer because they're not roasting it as high.
Right. Are you saying kiln?
Kiln.
Kiln?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Kilning. Like a kiln, like,
K-I-L-N?
yeah, so
Yeah, but sometimes I don't know what that means. I don't
when
know,
you,
I don't know if they know.
When you like you bake stuff, like if you ever took ceramics class in high school and you had to put it in a big kiln, I don't know.
I was a nerd.
I wasn't very good
read
at it. I'll be
papers.
honest with you. I made a candlestick.
So you're saying
that broke.
kiln?
Kiln,
Not
yeah, kiln.
I'm thinking you're saying kill.
No, you don't kill it. You kiln it with an N at the end.
Okay.
Damn our Massachusetts accents and our terrible
Everyone
ears
loves
for
my
it.
accent.
Yeah.
They love it.
Hey, so what they do is they kiln it at a
Yep.
certain temperature. Believe it or not, most beers, even the very dark ones, come from pretty much the same base malt, but it's just kilned at certain temperatures to you become like very roasty or chocolatey or something like that. This actually is a more fermentable malt because you're not burning off any of the residual sugars that do ferment. Well, the enzymes and things that do ferment. Without getting too technical.
All right. Well, let's try it then.
yeah,
I'm learning so
absolutely,
much from you.
Just trying to throw it out there.
Are we supposed to smell it first? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Smell and sip at the same time. That's what I do. Breathe in through the nose. Make sure you're not breathing in while you're drinking.
I
It
smell
gets embarrassing.
wood.
You do? It's kind of funny that you can definitely get that.
Yeah.
You know why? You're picking up the German hop profile.
Oh.
They're kind of woody.
I'm a hop girl.
Very floral, spicy. German noble
That's
hops.
nice. That's a nice.
Very. I mean, you can't tell there's so much in. I can definitely pull the rye out of there. I think the rye works pretty well because that has sort of that peppery, note to it. That's actually very difficult to brew with actually rye. So using this amount of different malts is pretty insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get an aroma right away. You get that sort of woody note.
Right.
You do get those yeasty phenols because it is, it is a Belgian style beer or Northern French, whichever you want to say it's from.
But it has a lot of things going on with it, which is same with the dishes.
That's kind of why I decided to do.
So they're both kind of working with each other and bringing each other out.
Yeah, having something that's very, it's very complex.
Yep.
This is a simple beer, not a simplistic beer, which is great because it does have a lot going on, but not enough that you're like, what the hell's going on in this beer? Like, this is kind of weird. Which I think that's the thing with the Ethiopian dishes, because there is a lot going on in them. You have legumes, you have a lot of spices, you have things like that I think would do well with something like Foolproof Brewing Company's La Ferme Urbane.
Yeah, Rob picked another great one, definitely.
Definitely wasn't easy.
Well, you did a great job.
Yeah,
Thanks.
you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So everyone, this has been this week's beer pairing, Carol O'Connor of the Chef's Table series, and we'll see you next week.
Cheers.
Hi everyone, this is the wine pairing segment for the Blue Nile restaurant's Ethiopian dish. And with me today is wine manager of Blanchard's Wines and Spirits, John Paul Kiminga. So, John Paul, what type of wine did you pick today?
This is a Rosado from Rioja, which is in northern Spain. It's a very interesting region, Rioja, and you don't see a lot of rosés from Rioja, but they're definitely out there. They're more known for their red wines. But this is made from the traditional grapes, Tempranillo and Garnacha. And
What color are they?
They're red grapes.
They're red grapes?
They're red grapes with white juice in the middle. Pretty normal red grapes. And so you would press the grapes and let the juice sit with the skins for just a short period of time. So instead of getting a dark red wine, you get this light pink wine.
Oh, I see.
Yep.
And how come you chose this one for the dish?
Well, rosé can be quite versatile, and this dish had a lot of spices.
It did.
And this is not the driest rosé, but doesn't have any like overt sweetness to it. There's a nice kind of strawberry fruit, but it's pretty subtle. It's not very berry flavored. I think traditionally you would have this with tej, which is
what is that?
it's a mead. It's or honey wine. So not really a mead, but it's Ethiopia's honey wine. And those I've had those before with Ethiopian food. They go really well, but I couldn't find one for today, so we're trying a rosé with it.
Let's try it.
All right.
Yeah.
So
Bring up my glass. Thank you. Well, I think the audience, they're dining on the dishes that chef owner Ellena Haile made, and I think they're raving. So I think you did a good job.
It worked out?
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of
It smells so good.
It was kind of a cop-out, an easy pairing. Rosé goes with a lot of different things.
Yeah. Rosé is very popular
Yeah.
this
So-
part of the season.
You can see it doesn't really have that red wine bouquet.
Right. It does have a
It's
bit of
sort
strawberry.
Subtle. Yeah, just a little subtle berry thing. Hey, by the way.
Cheers. Ooh,
Yeah.
that's nice.
Yeah, this is much more berry flavored. And the color is also kind of different. You get more purple tones.
Oh yeah.
Or not really purple, but it's much more pink.
Right. It won't overwhelm
No,
the spices. I think it complements it.
hopefully, yeah. That's what I'm hoping for.
We're going to have to dive into this as we eat and sip at the same time.
Cool.
John Paul?
It's a pleasure.
Perfect. Thank you. So everyone, this is Carol O'Connor, co-host of the Chef's Table series. And this has been the Wine Pairing of the Week with
John Paul from Blanchard's Wines and Spirits down the street. It's great to be here on behalf of the Chef's Table Foundation. Thanks, Carol.
Perfect. Thank you. So everyone, we'll see you next week. Hello everyone, and welcome to the restaurant interview segment of the Chef's Table series. My name is Carol O'Connor, and today I am in the heart of Jamaica Plain at a very unique restaurant. It's an Ethiopian restaurant called the Blue Nile. And with me is manager Joseph Haile, and we're going to talk about this amazing restaurant, its decor, and as well as its cuisine. So Joseph, thank you for being on the segment with me today. So Joseph, tell me about the Blue Nile. It's the only Ethiopian restaurant in Jamaica Plain, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. And you're located on Center Street, 389 Center Street.
Exactly.
And tell me about what is unique about Ethiopian cuisine for those people who've never tried it.
Okay, first of all, the spice. And
spice?
yes, so we have different kind of spicy food. And most of the vegetable dish we have is vegan. We have a lot of vegetarian dish.
Oh, perfect. 'Cause I'm sure a lot of people in
Yeah.
Jamaica Plain. I know myself. I'm also a vegetarian as well.
And the rest is the way how we eat the food. And most of them is communal. And instead of to eat everybody on the same dish, that's better.
Okay. So when you mention that, I know I've heard some stories. People think that, when you go to an Ethiopian restaurant, you eat with your hands.
Yes, ma'am.
But could people do that here?
Yes.
Yes.
Even if we give them a fork and a knife, they refuse, and they want to do exactly the way it used to be.
Really?
Yeah, yes.
So how would they pick up the food? The hand or a
They
special
pick up
type
the
of
piece
bread?
of injera, just a bread.
What's it called again?
Injera, we call it.
Yeah.
And it's made with stiff. If you prepare it 100%, it's gluten-free. And has a lot of iron too. And that injera, just we can dip it in the sauce or a piece of meat, everything, and just.
Perfect. But then for those people who want to eat with their
hand.
Silverware.
Then we can provide them.
Right.
Exactly. It's really hard. Even when I go to the Chinese restaurant, I can't use a chopstick, and I have to ask a fork.
Exactly.
Of course, some people they can't, and we are trying to accommodate with a fork and knife.
Perfect. Now, tell me some dishes that you have here that have come from your homeland, Ethiopia.
Yes, most of the spice coming from Ethiopia.
Yeah.
And the food was a little bit accommodated for our customer.
Okay.
Because normally the spicy food we did is very spicy.
It is.
And what we did, we took out the seed from the pepper, we grind it with ginger, garlic, different kind of spice. It's just spicy.
Yeah.
The reason why we did that, we want people to be able to taste each ingredient we have on the food.
Perfect. So
For
each bite they have, they should try this.
Yes, they can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, for example, our pepper, the hot spice,
Yeah.
is consisting with ginger, garlic, different kind of spice. And we don't put salt on the sauce, on the food, because the spice already salty.
Got it.
That's how. And the spice, it just really, even if it's the hottest spice, it's just mild, but it's just spicy.
Right.
People, they drink a lot of wine. They have to be able to taste the wine. And if you give them really hot food, they can burn their tongue or can sweat. Maybe they
Wow.
don't enjoy the wine. And that's how we just modified to the way it will be acceptable without really
Good.
having the burning sensation for
Right.
the people. Yeah.
And I'm sure people want a lot of water too.
Water, and we accommodate everything.
And you also have meat dishes as well.
Yes, we have a meat. We don't have a pork.
No pork.
We have chicken
Yeah.
and beef and lamb. Especially the lamb dish we have, it just comes from Australia. And we
wow.
trim the fat and we cook it halfway spicy, moist. It's just really good. And before we introduced the beef and chicken, when we introduced the lamb, now the high sale we have the lamb because people, even the people that don't like to eat lamb,
Yeah.
and the way it was prepared once time, they have a bite in our places, they come in
Delicious.
back and back again, and they
Wow.
like it really. And the high sale we have actually now even a lamb. We are a vegetarian house, but we sell a lot of lamb now.
Oh, wow. Yeah, because I noticed on your menu you have a lot of vegan, vegetarian, and meat dishes, which I think a lot of customers they enjoy.
Yes.
And tell me what are some spices from Ethiopia? Like, what are they called?
The most spicy you have the pepper.
Is it like a green pepper or red pepper?
No, the red pepper.
It's a red pepper.
Even the red pepper, we have two different kind of red pepper. The small one,
Yeah.
the chili one,
The chili
and
one.
the mild one. It's the way how we prepare the spice too. It makes difference.
Right.
Some of them we use it for a sauce. Some of them we use it for a vegetable. Some of them we use it for meat. And it depends to how spicy the food.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, do people come in and say, you know what, I really want it spicy?
It's amazingly people, they know the Ethiopian food. Most of the people, they came in here, they know exactly what they want. And for example, we have a custom in Ethiopia sometimes to eat like tartar. The
Yeah.
French, they call it tartar. We have that kind of dish. Back home, we eat it the way it is raw. But here in America, because of FDA,
You have to
we don't
cook
allow to
everything.
sell it raw, and we cook it at a certain temperature.
Correct, yeah.
And people, they love it.
Oh, good.
Sometimes I ask to be authentic. There is a way sometimes we can do things authentically.
Yes.
Because we have to follow certain regulation.
Right.
The vegan dish we have, everything, the vegan has to be vegan.
Yes.
And we are serious about that. We have 14 kind of dish we have except one, all is vegan.
Wow.
And that's how it works here.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So not only do you have food, some spices from Ethiopia, but you also have this amazing art on the wall. And I noticed that you have pictures as well as some instruments.
Yes.
Tell me about the instruments. Like, what are they called? And
The instrument we have, one call it masinko.
Masinko.
It's Ethiopian instrument, music, play music. It's made with a goat skin with a horse tail. And we say the violin, it comes from that.
The violin?
Because these people, they played from the 16th century.
in the 60s?
Yeah, from the 16th century, they played. Still, they play with this.
Oh, wow.
Most of the people they visited in Ethiopia, when they go to the coffee shops, they can see one man show playing with this instrument. And the other one is the guitar. It was made from the goat skin and with a horse tail. And it just like, it sounds like a guitar.
Yeah, it does,
And
yeah.
most of people that visit Ethiopia or they listen Ethiopian music, they knew about this machine.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the art on the walls. Now, these people, like politicians that are on the wall?
They are all kings. And
they're all kings?
Yes. And during the colonization time in Africa, they were the only kings in Ethiopia that were fighting to Western to keep really the sovereignty of the Ethiopian country. And the first one, you see, we call it Menelik. Just was fighting with the Italian when they come and colonized Ethiopia. And the third one, you can see Theodorus. He was killed by the British. The British, when they came into Ethiopia, they just really fighting to keep intact their country. And till it comes to Haile Selassie. Haile Selassie, the last one. Yes, he was really the best friend of John F. Kennedy.
Oh, he's best friends with John F. Kennedy?
Yes, John F. Kennedy. He was the first African president. He was in the White House, and he was really have the ceremony as a president when he come to here to visit
Now,
America.
was he educated in America?
No, he was educated in Ethiopia by the French because he speak French, and I speak also English. But we used to have a lot of school back home to Ethiopia at that time, even now. But people who go to the French school, they speak French. To the German school, they speak German. But Haile Selassie, he has an opportunity to get a different kind of teacher to himself and get education back home.
I think it's great that you have pictures of the kings.
It's good. That's the history of Ethiopia. These people, they represent Ethiopia.
Right. I'm sure a lot of people ask you when they come in, who's that? And, what was their role in history and stuff?
The most amazing people, when they ask me when they come to this restaurant, they are not coming only to eat, and they knew something about it, and they will ask me a question. Sometimes they are even ahead of me on certain things.
Oh, really?
Yes. And
great.
recently, there are a lot of people that were adopted from Ethiopia, the kids. And they bring them to this restaurant because they think when they come to this restaurant and getting the food and getting the different kind of their cultural stuff, and they think they become closer to Ethiopia. And there was a lot of people coming here. Just,
really?
The kids, they like it. And
the kids must love it. They must like seeing the different art in here. Oh, Joseph, that must warm your heart when they come here, and get to see all the children and families.
Exactly.
That's perfect. Oh, Joseph, that's a great way to end the segment about children and coming here. Again, learning from you and as well as having their home cooked meals here.
Exactly.
That's great. I was just telling Joe and Frank will have to come here and dine here for either lunch or dinner. Absolutely.
Thank you. I'm willing to accommodate you. I'm willing to serve you when you come in here. Okay.
Yeah, and it's healthy too. Healthy Ethiopian food. Definitely. So everyone, this has been the restaurant interview segment of the Chef's Table series that is produced by the Chef's Table Foundation. And again, we are here at the Blue Nile, and we'll see you next week with the restaurant interview of the week.
We try not to overcook because the onion, after a while, it sort of disappears.
Right.
Translucent. Maybe just a little bit more. I'm just going to add a little bit more water. So we'll cook a little bit softer. It'll be a little bit more soft. You do not put your pot on the fire if you don't have your ginger and garlic. So if you're going to do Ethiopian cooking, make sure you have the ginger and garlic, together. Just turn down the heat and let it cook. And then right before we take it out, we turn down the heat. And we put a little bit of cardamom powder and just, cover the lid and let it simmer maybe for 15-20 minutes. And that's it. You have it ready.
Right.